Good evening and welcome to the stream. This is the fifth part of our journey towards finishing Magic 2 on the Mac. And again, I'm going to play the game without the in-game sounds activated. They are mostly during combat, and they are very loud and can be a little distracting. So rather put some calming music in the background. And music comes to us courtesy of Pretzel, which is a service I subscribe to for royalty free music that you can play on stream without having it muted. But without further ado, let's jump into the game. In the last session we finished the cavern beneath Zanzibar. Hello, hi Taiko, welcome to the stream. And we finished the cavern beneath Zanzibar, and we did some sightseeing on the outside of Middlegate, and we made some attempts at scaling the castle Pinehurst without much success. We were a few levels off from being able to finish that, and then we explored the town of Tundara, and now it's time to descend into the caverns of Tundara and see if we can do some damage there. This version of the game has this lovely mapping feature which you can use and call up the map at any time, so you can see every square that you visited so far. The squares that we haven't visited are light gray and are the only parts of the town that we still haven't been able to finish. This is the lair of the snow beast, and to finish that battle off we need to fight multiple battles on the way down here all the way through the map, and here is a switch that deactivates the barrier, and then you need to run all the way back again and have some more encounters on the way there, and then finally you have to face the snow beast. And we made an attempt at this last night, but we aren't quite ready to face this battle yet, so we'll leave it for now. We also I made a little trip down into the cavern last night, and we were mostly successful, so I think we are a level high enough to be able to do that, and that's probably what we should be doing right now. And now we're in the cavern. We died, that was basically the last thing that happened on yesterday's stream. We died in the cavern after exploring quite a bit. We ended up in an encounter that we couldn't get ourselves out of. And there are, as is usual in these caverns, points that always spawn a fight with the monsters. In this case, the most dangerous of them is the illusionist. The illusionist is one of those monsters that strips you of your abilities to cast magic, so he's quite dangerous. Luckily for us, we've reached a level now where we are mostly able to get ourselves out of these situations. We might even be able to sustain more than one drain before we're completely out of spell points. So the only damage we did to ourselves was some diseased characters, which we can simply cure using clerical spells. Yeah, I also bought the mathematic pack on Good Old Games when it became available. Somewhere around here is actually my original copy of Mathematic 2 for the Mac. I might have to dig it up for tomorrow's stream. I still have the original game and the original 800K floppies that came with it, which are at this point fairly hard to read on any modern hardware because the 800K drive for the Mac was very peculiar. It used a technique where it would slow and speed up the drive depending on where on the disk you were actually located, in a similar way as to a high-speed CD-ROM that would spin more slowly on the outside of the tracks and faster on the inside, and that gave the Mac a slight advantage in disk speed, but also meant that you needed the fairly peculiar Sony drive that was in the Mac to be able to read them. And I don't think there's actually any mechanism out there today that is still being made that is able to do this. So you would have to dig up an old Mac computer to be able to read these disks. However, when the Mac moved to a high-density floppy, they stopped doing this. So Mac high-density floppy is readable by pretty much any regular high-density drive, and that's what the shapeshifter emulator on the Amiga took advantage of, since the shapeshifter emulator is actually capable of reading Macintosh disks, high-density disks at least. Fine. Now, in this game, as I've mentioned a few times in these streams already, what tends to happen is that you have some of these fights and you win, and eventually you get cocky and think that you are invincible, and that's usually when you die. So it's always a bit of a mix, because if we go back up, say upstairs to be able to save the game, we need to go through these fights again, at least if we're going exactly the same way. However, if we don't go upstairs and save our progress, then we will simply lose it when we eventually perish down here. So the leprechaun is with the Wizardry series. What is the Wizardry series? I'm not sure I know what you mean there. But as I was saying, the leprechaun is an interesting little beast. He has a high armor class, so he's fairly hard to hit, and in addition to that, he will steal all of your money. So that's okay if you manage to complete the battle, but if you end up in a situation where you have to run away, then you are basically left with zero money for all the characters. And we've been fighting them now for a while, and we've only managed to kill half of them. So he takes a fair amount of beating. And we're not really in any serious trouble yet, but at this point he's probably already stolen almost all of our gold. Yeah, we have none of the characters. Well, the bottom 4 still have their gold. He's managed to rip out the other ones. Okay, similar to Dungeon Master, yeah. We all played Dungeon Master. That was one of the first RPGs that was generally available. It took quite a bit of convincing when I saw this game on a shelf in a game store to convince my father that it was a good idea to let me play games on his Macintosh that he mostly used for work purposes. But I did eventually manage to convince him that that was a good idea. But then about a year later I got my own Amiga, and most of the games I played after that point were on my Amiga. This is the only game I ever played to any extent on the Mac. But I played it in black and white, obviously, and this is the color version of the game. It's exactly the same except in color. I must say that it, outside of the actual game window being a tad small, it looks pretty nice. The both the PC and the Amiga version of this game are much more similar to the Apple II version. They are more text-based, although there is a graphical window. The most of the interface is more text-based. Our game number 3 in the series, which I played on the Amiga at the time, is more like this. It's more of a closer to being a modern RPG. Let's see, Sir Hiron is probably the one that needs the most curing. You don't really realize how much you depend on being able to cure your characters during battle until you end up in a room where you can't cast magic during battle. And that makes many of the battles tougher. As your sorcerer and cleric gain levels, you start to rely more and more on being able to cast magic. But none of these battles have been very dangerous so far. And we found a decent amount of treasure after every fight. So where are we now on the map? Okay. It's very tempting, as I tried yesterday, to try to finish the circle before going back upstairs, so we don't have to do all of this again. Which probably means that we have one more encounter to go. And then we can go upstairs. This is, however, a very similar battle to the one that killed us last night. There are these killer cadavers that explode and kill us, and the jugglers that do a significant amount of damage to every party member. So now we have two choices. We can either attack the jugglers and try to make our way out of this, which is probably what I'm going to try to do. But or we can try to run. Which is probably the smart thing to do, but it's not what we're doing. I'm gonna hope that we're able to kill off as many of these jugglers as is possible. The problem with the juggler is that what he does, which is very nasty, is that he reorders the party when he juggles them. So now we're at the point where this is getting to be very, very difficult. We managed to kill the jugglers, but we have 3 characters that are still alive. The sorcerer is dead, and we have 4 unconscious members. And we're out of spell points, so we can't cast Power Cure, and we can't cast First Aid. So now it's a question of which ones of these do we attack first, and hope to survive. We don't survive, we're dead. And this is a eerily similar battle to the one that we had last night, so I think it's a good chance that this particular spawning point always has similar monsters. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go the other way and try this battle first. Let's see if we get a very similar battle, or whether it's easier. Now we're dealing with a druid here. But only one of them, so that's more doable. It's the combination of the juggler with other monsters that make that particular battle very difficult. But what the juggler does is, when he moves the sorcerer up front, it also means that the sorcerer receives a lot of hits from the front line of the battle. Since he only has 31 hit points, she's pretty quick to become unconscious. And when we've lost the sorcerer, we've also lost a spellcaster that is able to attack up to 4 monsters with up to 30 damage. So it makes every battle that more difficult. So now we're going clockwise up this corridor here instead of going counterclockwise. This is not nearly as difficult a battle. We need to get rid of the wraith, but the gnome is very easy. Okay. So this is the leprechaun battle again. Have to get ourselves through that again. We had absolutely no luck using magic on the leprechaun. It didn't work at all, so might as well just quick fight our way through it. Okay. There's an encounter here. Lots and lots of jugglers and a conjurer. That's not nice. So it seems that you will have at least one of these battles that is very, very, very difficult. We better be able to heal our characters before they get another chance. That turned out pretty well for us. There's always an element of luck in this game. It's a question of who gets to go first. Did you surprise the monsters or did they surprise you? And how lucky are they when they make their first move? How much damage do they actually cause? My rule is that you do perish a lot in this game. So my rule is that if I've attempted a battle 3 times and I've lost 3 times, and I decide that it's too early for that particular battle, and I will return to it at a later stage. But I do make 3 attempts because you can get unlucky twice. The fact that the barbarian only has an armor class of 11 is starting to be a little bit of a hindrance, because although he has some 80 hit points, he still loses a lot of them every turn. This has been pretty much a good day. I had to oil most of the fences outside. 3rd coat, probably the last one. And then I had a pretty lazy day. It's good that you're going back to school. What are you studying, Hitako? I'm going to save our progress here. We've made at least some progress. I'm also going to sell some of the stuff that we've found so far, so we don't fill our backpacks with all sorts of stuff. Seem to have found something called a ray gun +5. I want to see what that is. Okay, the ray gun increases your accuracy by 5. It's highly useful. Let's see. That brings wrong equipment to equip. Okay. Why is that? Wrong alignment. Okay, you can't be neutral. Okay. Then we can try the thief. Ah, yes, technical writing. Excellent. A somewhat lost skill in my humble opinion. I've been working with Cisco networking equipment since 1997 or 8, and their technical documentation used to be fantastic. It was up to date and very well written, and most of the newer documentation in the last few years is now on various forums where customers are having problems with some feature or another, and they will answer the queries in the forum, perhaps give some information as to how to use it, and that's basically the documentation. So that's less than great. So I'm very happy that people are still studying this, because I think documentation is not something that should be in a forum somewhere. It should be in an actual document. It can be on a document that is online, but and it can be on the web, but it should definitely be in a real document. This ray gun +5, which is a very useful item, can probably only be used by characters that have a good alignment, which means that this is the only cast member that can actually have it. So we will let him have it because it increases his accuracy by some 10 points. So from 15 to 25. I find it very interesting that schools are now suddenly becoming aware that it is possible to study something without actually being there. For the longest time they've been very reluctant to do that, and I somewhat understand why, because there is some research that suggests that retention is not as good when you are attending virtual courses as it is when you are there in person. And I can say for myself that I've gone to conferences multiple times outside of Iceland, and I find that actually attending the conference versus watching it online or through a stream are two very different experiences. But still, I think that virtual courses are at least better than not having the courses at all. And during the current situation, it's probably wise to keep the social interaction to a minimum. In Iceland right now we're going through our second wave, and we were making pretty good progress, but it was a backlash on Friday when they discovered that a single member of staff at a hotel had infected at least 9 guests at the hotel, and that also meant that every person that had been at that particular hotel for a period of some days had to be entered into a quarantine. So at least 100 people ended up in quarantine due to this one person that had COVID-19. So it can spread very quickly. Even if you take precautions, there's still a chance that you will get it. So right now at work we are split into 2 different groups, and one group is working from home and the other group is at work, and then we switch places every other week. So the coming work week, it's my turn to go to work again and not work from home. I spent all of last week at home. And we are slowly, or at least I am slowly getting used to this. And it is better than it was during the first wave, because for a good while in the first wave we were split into 3 separate groups, and then for a few weeks everyone was working from home. Yeah, I totally agree with you. It should be a tome, a single guide that has all the information. And at least when you're like in networking, you're usually you're focusing on a single feature, and what you want to be able to do, you want to be able to read the documentation from start to finish that covers everything you need to do, and all the prerequisites that you have, and everything every piece of hardware that you need to have installed, all the software versions that you need to have, every configuration option that you need to enable, and then every option that you have to tune that particular service. And you want to be able to find all of this information in the same document. And when it's documented in a forum format, you need to read multiple threads, and you often have information that is not valid anymore in one of the threads, and you even have contradicting information as to how to configure something, because you can have an old thread that hasn't been updated with the latest information, so then you have to start wondering which version of the truth is the right one. And it has become this way for a lot of tech, that the primary place to look for resources is some sort of forum, and that's less than great. That was an incredibly difficult battle that we would have never won, but somehow we survived. So I'm just going to fight until we die again. It's funny that we went downstairs just earlier and explored the exact same places, and now we've gone downstairs 2 times and had battles that were completely impossible to finish. And I think that's the roll of the dice. During this 8-hour span, we have a poor time getting out of these fights. I assume that the point of these battles is that we can't gain access to the other areas in this cavern without finishing off these battles, because the panels that gave us access to the hidden areas are hidden behind the encounter spots. So I'm going to test that theory by winning one of these battles and trying to see if the wall on the right is in fact fake. This one is not. Let's see, let's try every square here. Okay, that one gave in, so X for Y0 was the one that eventually caved. There are probably others as well. Okay, this is not impossible by any stretch. A mutant is immune to magic, but is not immune to melee attacks, so it's tough, but we just need to keep beating him. The thug trainee is vulnerable to magic, so we can use the magical spells on him. And the bloodsucker is a very low level monster, so we can easily beat that. And they will probably run away anyway, as they've done. I think we can fight ourselves out of this now. Yes, we can. Okay, that's 2 squares completed here. Before we go up there, I want to explore this corridor here. Storage, okay. I'm fairly sure that in accordance with the nature of this town, that the storage means that there are plenty of monsters in there ready to fight us. At least sounds very likely. Here is an unmarked door, which is even more dangerous than a marked one. Yeah, we are lucky enough that we have a government that listened to the scientists and took their advice. And what's more, that people generally listen to the advice and mostly obeyed the rules and kept their distance. We didn't really at any point have a rule about wearing masks here, probably because it was fairly early on and the mask use hasn't been ruined quite as much as it has now. And it probably helped that when we were going through the first wave, which was in March and April, and particularly for the last week of March and into April, well into April in fact, and into early May perhaps, the weather here was very bad, and that's not something that you suffer from much in Florida. You usually have pretty nice weather, so people want to be outside and having a good time. Whereas here, staying inside didn't really sound all that bad. So that probably helped at least a little bit. There is some lever here that sets something at X12Y2. I'm gonna make a note of it. But I've heard some stories about what's going on in Florida, and it doesn't really sound good. Ignoring the problem doesn't make it go away. And the disease also tends to be difficult to deal with, because I think the biggest problem really is the time that you can carry the disease without having any symptoms. So you can, for example, we were down to 0 infections, but then we opened the border with pretty strict rules, and you needed to be tested when you got here, for example. So every person that landed at the airport was tested. That, however, isn't enough, because you can be totally symptom-free and you can test negative even if you have it, because it can take up to 10 days or even more for the symptoms to show up. So in reality, if you want to make absolutely sure, you need to be tested again. And that is now the rule. If you come to the country, you need to go into a de facto quarantine. So you are tested when you arrive now, and you are tested again in 5 days. And if you're still negative, you can leave the quarantine situation. But if you aren't, then we need to take precautions and place you in a stricter quarantine, or in isolation, really. And there are some people that believe we should have just shut down the border for good, but at least during the crisis. But it isn't quite that simple, because we have a pretty large tourism business here, and we are somewhat reliant on the income from tourists. So shutting down the country isn't necessarily something that is beneficial for us in the long term. So this was a decision that was made, and it's now been toughened quite a bit due to this new rule that you have to quarantine for at least 5 days. And it was noticeable just on the first day that the amount of tourists that actually entered the country, they were reduced quite a bit. I think they said that only a third of the tourists that were planning their trip here actually went ahead with it. The rest decided to stay at home rather than face 5 days of quarantine here. It's expensive to have to stay at a hotel for 5 days and not be able to really do anything. It's probably not the vacation that you planned. But these are complicated times. I actually went to Barcelona in January for a conference, late January. And that was just about the point where COVID was starting to emerge as a serious threat. And I was lucky. I didn't get the disease. And I made it home again, but every tech conference I've mostly seen since then has been cancelled. So and I think that will remain as long as as we don't have a vaccine. These cockatrices are difficult to deal with, because they turn the party into stone. So if we win this battle, we will have to go upstairs and unstone ourselves. Yeah, a lot of people have been keeping inside, and and wearing masks when they go out during the peak times here. I have 3 kids, and my wife would go shopping, and she would wear gloves when she went shopping, and she would disinfect as soon as she came outside, and we would wipe down everything that we bought with disinfectant, and she would shower when she got back. And we tried our very best to make sure that the disease didn't enter into the household. And in general, we tried to stay inside, but we did, however, manage to complete the first wave. So we at least managed a few weeks here during the summer where COVID wasn't a threat, and we were able to mostly return to normal life. And I took the boys out north, and we had a vacation, and I was able to take them with me shopping, and they were able to go to the park, and we were able to live a normal life again for a little bit. And although there are some restrictions in place now, again, it's still less restrictive than it was during the first wave, because the second wave hasn't been quite as difficult to handle. We also know a little bit more about the disease now, so we know what it is that we definitely need to maintain, like the distancing and the mask use. And we know the things that we perhaps shouldn't worry so much about. It costs 1600 gold per character to fix this condition, and I'm now going to be a cheapskate. I'm going to travel back to the first town to heal up the characters, because it's significantly cheaper. It only costs half that in the first town. So it's going to be 800 instead of 1600, and we have 2 characters from our party that we need to heal, so that's quite a bit of money saved. But I was going to say about being inside all the time. I manage a group of people at work, and we had these daily meetings every day during the quarantine period, where everybody was basically inside all the time. And of course, we generally discussed work-related matters for at least most of the meeting, but sometimes the meeting was also just an opportunity to chat with people that you worked with, because the dangerous bit to me about the staying inside all the time and all this isolation is that you get very socially isolated. And that's not good for any human for an extended period of time. So at least attending these meetings meant that you had to see other people and talk about what it is that you were doing every day. And even doing that helps a little bit. Okay, so now we've healed up again and saved the game. So we'll return downstairs. Yeah, the cheaper option is obviously preferable, but it's a little bit of a bother because we are now in the third town, so to travel back to the first one requires us to take 2 different portals, which actually gets gets easier in the 5th town because the portals are a circle. So once you reach the 5th town, you can go directly back to the first one. And in town number 3, you can go to either town 2 or 4, and the same is true for town 2. You can go either to town 1 or 3. So game does make it fairly easy to travel between towns, and that's welcome, because otherwise you would need to go outside into the wilderness, and it takes a fair amount of time to travel, so the game saves you having to do that. And there's already a significant amount of grinding to be done, so it's very welcome that you are able to save some of the time by using these teleports. Later on, you also learn a spell that can help you save a location to return to. So if you're in a dungeon somewhere and you need to go back to town to heal, you can cast the spell, travel to the nearest town, and then return using the spell to the exact location that you were in. The Cursed Slayer has been using his time well here. We had to take care of these hydras because they spray us with fire. So it was a question of either being dead or cursed, and I was going to take the second option. The remove condition spell, which we get on level 5, which we will get when the character reaches level 9, can remove any condition, and that speeds things up and means that we don't need to go upstairs for the cursed condition. Here's another secret wall. Here's a little secret square we need to get access to. These little tips are scrolled around the dungeons. Fire encasement is hidden in the elemental plane of fire at X14, Y14. Okay. That's good to know. I've jotted that down into my WordPad document. It's enormously useful to be able to use this mapping feature without having to manually map the game. When I completed my Dramatic 1, I mapped it manually using Excel. And that took probably as long as actually playing the game. Now there are these automappers for I think the entire series, at least 1, 2, and 3. So you can fire up the game in DOSBox and in the inside of the mapper, and the mapper will take care of mapping the areas automatically for you as you move along, which makes the game somewhat easier. The Master Gemmaker are recluse by nature. teaches enchant item for a time-worn fee. Interesting. So that probably means that if we accept his offer, the characters will age. Okay. Enchant item is a clerical spell or a sorcerer spell. It's a sorcerer spell. Yeah. So we will know that when we get to it, that it will probably age the character. At which point we will probably have gained a spell to remove the aging condition to make that somewhat easier. There is nothing in this particular square here, nothing written on the walls, and no treasure to be found. But it was there anyway. So we've done this little block here. And I'm just gonna take one of these blocks at a time and then return back and save our progress and go back down. I'll take this piece by piece. It's the easiest way to do this. Should probably also sell some items here. There's we're cursed. Okay, probably get that fixed. A blacksmith is picky about his clientele. It doesn't allow us to do any shopping if we're incapacitated in some way. Can't be bothered to go all the way back for this, although there is a saving involved. It's not that great, and we've earned quite a bit of funds here. We have some 40,000 gold per character, so I'm not gonna be picky about saving myself a couple of hundred for some restorement. Here we go, save this progress, and then sell our wares again. So we can't sell anything in the store as a hireling. The hireling characters, which are the barbarian at position 2 and the knight at position 4, are not members of the original party. We are hiring them at a fixed cost per day to join the party and fight with us. And Drogue is now at 257 a day, while Sir Hiram the Knight is only at 19. So if we do decide to get rid of one of them, it's very likely that I will toss the Barbarian, because the Knight is actually quite useful, while the Barbarian is difficult to equip, particularly armor wise, because he can It's very limited in the armor that he can wear, and he can't wear a shield. So he's difficult to deal with in that regard. Although he's a pretty good fighter, he does a lot of damage. So now to go up here again, I think we should finish this part of the map. We have these swamp beasts. Okay, they are very difficult to deal with, obviously. I think we can safely assume that this is an instant death. But that is why we save the game. This system of having you go to the inn to save the game is sort of what makes this game fun. If you were able to save every move, it would be much easier. And games that are too easy get boring very quickly. I played the Long Dark, both the story mode and the survival mode, and I've seen so many people complain on the forums about the permanent death feature, which basically means that if you're playing it in survival mode and you die, then you're dead. There's no saving and no getting around that. You can't restore your character in any way. Yeah, thanks very much for joining me, Aitago. Go do your schoolwork, it's more important than watching me playing an old video game. Have a nice night. Hope to see you soon again. Here is a square that we can't enter from this side, which is a little bit annoying, at least because we were just down there earlier, but we can go back there now. So it's obviously accessible through here, or no, it isn't. How do you get there then? How do you gain access? It's not through here, it's not through here, and it's not through here. So how do we get in there? Yeah, thanks, Aitago. It's always nice to be able to just sit down and play video games. That's what I call a nice night. Perhaps we can use the jump spell here. Let's attempt that. No, we can't. Okay, it was a valiant attempt. Just gonna try these squares again to be absolutely sure, because this is fairly rare in this game. There's no way to get into it from this side. I'll try the other side again. Okay, this is solid. So that means that there is some magical way somewhere in the cavern to gain access to that particular block. Either a teleport or that switch that we found earlier does something to make us able to access it, because there is never a square in any map that you can't access somehow. I've never seen that happen in this game, so It's very unlikely that this is such a case. This one says controls. Controls for what? You see a red lever, pull it. Not quite now. X10, Y13. That's the red lever. Okay, we will return to this at a later point. I'm very careful in this game not to touch anything or move anything without giving it some thought, and preferably knowing what it does. This one says storage as well. So far these storage rooms have actually been exactly that. They've been storage. We've been able to find not really useful items, but items of some value. A shield and a weapon and a torch. Hundreds of frozen cadavers fill the room. That's interesting. That sounds like we're being set up for an encounter. Probably in the center square of the room. No, actually not. Okay, so I'm going to assume that the red lever that is up there turns off the freezer and turns them from frozen cadavers into some sort of undead monster that we probably don't want to fight. A mystifying M27 Radicon rests at X2 or 11 in Castlewood Haven. Okay. Jotted that down in my document. There's one square remaining here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back upstairs and save this progress, the mapping that we've done here, and then I'm going to go down here and pull this lever and see what that does. I have a feeling that it turns off the freezer, which will mean that we will enter into a tough battle that we might win. Let's see. Let's go back up there. Every time we enter again, we have to go through these fixed encounters in these fixed spots. And this one is difficult. These woodsmen are not easy to deal with, and this is a fair amount of them, so we will at least have to pay attention to what we're doing here if we're going to make it out of this alive, which we might do depending on the roll of the dice. Let's see. Use the healing spells. The lightning bolt spell to our advantage here. Try to keep the members of the party alive to continue fighting. It's also important that the frontline members of the crew, that are the ones that take the most hits, are alive, because otherwise the hits move further down into the characters that have less hit points and are more likely to more likely to die, including the sorcerer and the cleric, which we definitely want to be able to continue to cast magic so we don't lose the ability to heal ourselves and lose the ability to cast the lightning bolt spell. There are now only 7 of them left, so we're slowly making our way through. There were 17 of them to start with, so we've made decent progress. And we're slowly starting to lose members to unconsciousness, and now we're running out of spell points as well. In a long, drawn out battle here. That's okay, we're going to make it through. And we're going to gain a significant amount of experience points, 2750. It's quite a bit. And found a thief's pick +3. That's actually a very useful item. Now there's a robber in the crew, in the party, called Pink Panther, and his thievery percentage is based on 3 different things: his current level, the any enchanted items that he has, and any skill that he has learned. And we met a master thief in the dungeon beneath Zanzibar that increased our thievery percentage by 7%, and he's been slowly leveling up, so his thievery percentage has increased. And then there's the thieves pick, which also increases the percentage. So with the thieves pick here that he had, he was at 57%. Without it, he's at 42. So now we have this new item, brings it up to 60. So that means there's a 60% chance that he is able to successfully pick a lock or disarm a trap on the treasure without springing it, which helps. And eventually, when trained up fully and after reaching the last levels of the game, he will get close to 100%, and aided by some magical items. And since we found an item of true value to us, I'm going to I went back upstairs to save our progress, even if that means that we will have to go into this battle again. This time a somewhat easier one, at least not nearly as difficult as the one that we fought previously with the 17 soldiers. This was a rather tame battle. Let's see. Okay, now we need to gain access to that part again, which was through the first square here, and go into this room with the controls and pull the lever and return to the room full of cadavers, and assume that, yep, here they are, 200 killer cadavers. That's tough. Now our best hope here is that we're able to use the turn undead spell and turn most of them away. But in all reality, it's likely that we will have to return again at a later point when we have the holy word spell, because that is a much more powerful version of the turn undead spell that will basically eradicate every single one of them in one spell, making this a very easy battle. But as it stands, we are definitely never going to win this one, because we are not able to cast the turn undead spell again after we've cast it once. And there are 174 of these killer cadavers left, and there is absolutely no way we can survive. But at least now we have verified exactly what it is that the lever does. And I will jot that down into my document here. So that I will mark it so that we know that it's hasn't been completed, so I can return to it at a later date when we are more able to have this fight. I assume there's obviously a high number of experience points involved in finishing it, and probably some sort of item to be found as a reward for completing it. So it's definitely a battle that we should have at some point in this game, even if we're not quite prepared for it at this exact moment. We found ourselves cursed here, but we can still continue inside the dungeon even if we are cursed for a bit. Certainly makes things slightly more difficult for us. It's makes it harder for us to hit the enemy. One of the things that you need to somewhat take care of here is that the conditions that are listed only list the worst conditions, so sometimes a character that is unconscious is still deceased. So, and it's hard to tell that without resting first and then having to rest again. That's not really the treasure. At least we found enough to be able to restore the condition without losing any money. Also found some gems, so it's perhaps starting to get to the point where it's better to go at this from the other direction, or at least slowly getting to that point. We're about maybe halfway done with this dungeon. I don't think I've cast an identify monster on these yet. I have 28 points, armor class of 6, and they're not undead. Okay. Fairly tame, or at least look to be fairly tame on the surface. We're not gonna go into that little square because that's the fight with the leprechaun unless we absolutely need to. And of course, this game, being somewhat of a troll that it is, might have set it up so that we need to enter that square to be able to gain access to some part of the map, but that does not appear to be the case. We're in a fairly large room now. On the other side, here is a message that we will scribble down. Burned into the ceiling are the words Castle Sabran, X6, Y14, fire disk. Let's see. We'll go back here, down here, through here. Here is another one of these. This one doesn't have any message for us. These freestanding walls are always a little bit funny. Held up by absolutely nothing. This is another one of those squares, but the difference between these squares in this room and the last one is that they don't need a secret entrance. There is an open wall. A message blasted into the rock reads, to find the weird warrior, Spaz Twit, Phaser, armed ancestor of Lord Hart. Travel to the 7th century A1 X11 Y3. One of the more interesting things about this particular game is that, and in fact the series, is that it involves traveling to both different planes. There's the elemental plane of water, fire, and air, which we will travel to with a spell at some point. And then there's also time travel involved, where you move ahead in time and explore the same locations as you explored previously on the outside, but with different characters and monsters. So that's very interesting. And the storyline for these games are pretty great. And that's ultimately what makes it worth it to play them. There's a message here, sort of making it seem worthwhile to check every single wall as we've been doing. And it reads, the 4 discs are needed to get the corresponding talons. So we already know the location of the fire disc, and we know, looking through my document here, the earth disc, we know the location of the earth disc. And there are multiple cases, and they're basically quests in this game where you need to find various objects that are spread around different dungeons in the game and use them along with solving a puzzle or a riddle to get further. And the game is not necessarily linear in the sense that some of these quests are like sub-quests. You don't necessarily need to complete them to finish the game, but they make the game more interesting. Here's another message. A group of natives who reside in Natives Cove at X8Y1 oftentimes go into a frenzy. So this is not a hard to decipher message. Basically means that in this particular cove, which is somewhere on the outside, there's a large gathering of these fenced natives which attack you and explode, killing everything in their path. And some of those battles are not possible until you leveled up to pretty much the maximum levels in the game, because you need to be able to take a significant amount of hit points, but are still worth returning to at that point, because they offer you a significant amount of experience which you need if you're gonna have any chance of leveling up further. For every level you gain, the number of experience points that you need to gain a level doubles, so it becomes harder and harder to level up. Now let's see. I sort of want to get rid of these slayers here before we all get cursed. The Hypno Beetle used to be a very difficult enemy, and it is in the first levels of the game, but then the characters slowly get immune to the sleep spell, and it becomes more and more difficult to put them asleep. These cursed slayers are not to be fiddled with, they're quite difficult to fight. And the fact that we are all cursed, which significantly reduces our chances of hitting the enemy, certainly does not help at all. Try to counter that. I've now cast a bless spell, which does the reverse, but it will still probably take a while. We are in pretty dire shape. I think we will still make it out alive. I was just gonna bash my way through this, but these slayers didn't quite like that cockiness. The less of them there are, the harder it is for them to inflict serious damage on the party. Still have one unconscious member. Fix that. We survived to fight another day, although we're all cursed except for the cleric, which has a higher resistance to most of these spells than the other characters in the party. By his very nature. I can't see that there was much to gain by this particular battle. I don't think we found anything of real value. It's just a random encounter. So now we have explored all of this room and are able to travel back and save our progress and uncurse everyone. We need to remember where we came in. It was somewhere around here, yeah. And we need to go the same way back so we don't run into the encounter before being able to go outside. Let's see. I think we will start by fixing our condition here, since we won't be able to sell anything at the blacksmith in this condition anyway. Restore. We don't have to pay to heal the hirelings, we just have to pay for the party members. Where are we now?
Television advertisements. I think "Eat Fresh" is a great slogan. They managed to convince an entire continent, if not the globe, that eating a foot of bread was somehow good for you.
Let's see. So, we're interested in selling love language, the thief's pick, and the sickle. And we are interested in saving the game. And then we're going to go back downstairs and fiddle with the magical lever that was at X11Y2 and see what that does. That's the only thing we haven't completed down here. And I'm trying to remember where we entered into this. I think it was at the last point, so we need to go through this encounter before being able to do that. I think we can basically quick fire ourselves through the rest here. Some 1800 experience points. We found a significant amount of gold, some 2000 per party member. There are 6 party members, so that means that we found some 12,000 gold. So quite a bit. Let's see. The lever was inside one of these rooms here. It was in fact here. And the question is basically, what does it do? Set the magic location. Yes. What is the magical location? That's a good question. Okay, so this is basically a tunable teleport. So we need to tell it exactly where it is that we want to go. And that location is X 15, 14, 13. So it's 13, 15, 14, 13, 12. 13, 12 that we want to go to. $13, $12. Now we're inside the little box. And it's a room full of magic herbs. I think we will take one. And that's all there is to it. And now we're done with this particular cavern here. Many of the secret locations have a different exit than they do an entrance. So Even if you can exit one way, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can enter, and vice versa. So we completed the last puzzle in the cavern. We should probably sell any wares that we got while down there. And then I'm interested in, now that we've done quite a bit of combat, to see if we are close or to being able to level up. Sir Lancelot the Knight needs almost 40,000 to level 9, but Trog the Barbarian is ready for level 8. Sir Roland is ready for level 8. Sir Hiram is ready for level 8. William Tell the Archer is ready for level 8. The Pink Panther is already at level 9. Friar Tuck is already at level 9, but Magic at the Spell Sorcerer is ready for level 8. So now all the characters in the party are at level 8. The major enhancements for the magical characters come next at level 9, where we gain access to the level 5 spells. But every level that we gain means that we add additional hit points. I'm now going to take a look at Drog. He's now costing us some 404 gold pieces per day, which is a significant amount of money considering his skill set, whereas Sir Hiram is only 28. It's becoming more and more tempting to get rid of Drog, but we'll move on still a little bit with Drog. I would at least like to find another hireling to replace him with before getting rid of him, but at the way this is hiking up, it's doubling basically every level. He will soon reach a point where he costs almost 800 gold per day to maintain, and he's just not that skillful of a character. Before I'm gonna make an attempt here to I should probably be absolutely sure I've saved before I do this. Another attempt at this snow beast here. It's a fairly difficult path that we need to take. First of all, it's pitch dark in there, and for every square that we move, we lose a unit of light, and inside this area we are also unable to cast any spells, so we need to cast a lasting light before we go in. And let's see, and we need quite a few of them because we need to be able to go back and forth, so in reality we need more of them than this. We need almost 50 to be able to reach the end there, to pull the lever to remove the barrier. There is a barrier here, so we can't enter there. And in every square here there is an encounter that we need to finish, and we can't use any spells, so we basically need to quick fight ourselves out of these fights here, making some of these monsters, which perhaps under normal circumstances wouldn't be that difficult, all that more difficult. And of course if we need to rest, we also lose the lasting light. However, we can still go back and cast it again. And still not have to fight exactly this fight again in this square. We made it to the end here, and there's another battle here on this side. Also fairly difficult. This one is more difficult, in fact. There are 3 of these sludge beasts which will spray us with acid since they're in front. Some thug trainees and some mountain patrols, and they are very difficult soldier-like monsters. I'm going to attempt to run, which worked, and go back and see if I have to face these battles again. There was a fairly low likelihood that we would have won, so since the encounters are somewhat random, I'd like another chance, another roll of the dice. See, we need at least 3 of these to make it to the monsters. I like to travel in light. I don't like to go where I can't see. Okay, this is a different battle. It's also difficult. No less, perhaps. These hill giants did a real number on the party. We're probably going to perish here anyway. Yes. I'll make 2 more attempts at this before giving up. But I think it's actually very likely that we aren't ready to have these battles quite yet. We need a little bit more experience. And perhaps another level. We need to cast one of these to have the first battle. It's enough, we don't need more. Need to get rid of these minor demons here first, since they now it comes in handy to have most of the characters in the party equipped with a ranged weapon, because we can, even if we don't have any magic, use the ranged weapons when we want to eliminate some monsters before others. In this case, the minor demons, when they get their chance to get in the front of the battle, will start casting fireballs on us, which is not good at all. And then there's these super sprites, which are able to curse the party. So we want to get rid of them first, otherwise we will have to go back to the temple and heal. Let's see. We survived this battle without much fanfare. Now we need to cast the lasting light again, and we need more of them. So we want to be able to, if we make it through the battle, we want to be able to go back again. Okay. This is difficult as well. We need to get rid of these acidic blobs because they will cast a spell and spray us with acid. Luckily enough, the some cases in these areas where you can't cast magic, sometimes if the creature is using a magical ability instead of a for example, the acidic blob is obviously an acid-based monster, so he's not using any magic spell to cast the acid. But in the case of the inept wizard, for example, which is using a magical spell to take you down, he is not able to cast his magic spells any more than we are able to cast ours. So that way the game is not cheating here. There is actually no magic involved, either for the monsters nor us. Let's see. We are slowly making our ways through these swine here. Not quickly, but slowly. Now just a single zombie remains, and we survive. And by doing so, we got absolutely no treasure whatsoever. Now we need to go all the way back and recast the lasting light spell. Don't necessarily actually need to do this. We can travel in the dark. I just like to know where I'm going. Now we completed 2 of these encounters that we need to face before reaching the barrier. And there's 1 left. The mad peasants are almost impossible for us to deal with, so for all intents and purposes we are basically dead at this point. Yeah. Okay. We've made enough attempts at this. I'm fairly certain that we are not leveled up high enough to be able to finish this quest at this point in the game. So I will now travel back to Zanzibar, the second town in the game. One peculiarity that I found on the last stream is the game's spelling of the name Zanzibar on the window, and at the inn it says Zanzibar with an S. However, in all of the portals it actually says Zanzibar with an NDS. So I'm guessing that at some point the spelling of the town name was changed, and they didn't change every occurrence. So there are some cases where it's referred to as Zanzibar with a D, and some cases where it's not. For example, here at the inn it says Zanzibar without a D. And now we need to travel back to the first town, and the portal is down here. What was it? It's not here. Where are we now? Okay, it's all the way down here, near the bottom. Portal to travel to Middlegate. Yes. There I will sign into the Middlegate Inn, And we are going to go out into outside square C2 and explore the outside map a little bit. In the last section I said there were 20 different maps of the outside, and that is true. However, I also said they were labeled from A1 to E5. That is not true. It's from A1 to E4. So there are 4 of them in a row: A1, 2, 3, and 4, and then the letters A, B, C, D, and E. So it is correct that there are 20 of them. It's not correct that they're labeled from 1 to 5. So I can tell here immediately that we aren't able to walk into the forested areas, and I was fairly sure that we had already learned a skill required to do so. Cartographer and Mountaineer. Let's see. That's mountaineering. That's a skill that we need to. A ranger will train you in the difficulties of forest travel for 2000 gold. Yes, what I'm going to attempt to do here is have Sir Hiron also learn this skill, even though he's a hireling, in case that we need 2 members of the party to be able to use it on the outside, which is entirely possible. And I won't save it because I want to see, yeah, that is the case. So we need 2 characters with this skill to be able to pass through the mountainous areas. So I will now save our progress here. And that probably also means that we need 2 mountaineers, so we might as well have Sir Hiron learn that skill as well. This is the forest. This is the mountaineering. So every character can learn up to 2 different skills. There are many skills in the game, some of which are obviously more useful than others, and so that you don't soft lock yourself, the game does offer a way to clear the character skills, so you can safely try out some of these skills without being stuck with them forever. However, like in many things in this game, I'm just I'm being very careful with buying any of these skills or trying anything without knowing exactly what it does. So I will buy the skills as I need them. Some of the skills were also in the in game number 1, which I've already completed, so I know what some of them do, but some of them are new to this game. Here was an encounter inside the woods, and the plan here for now is to explore every square of the outside map, one by one. As you can see, we've now entered into a mountainous area, which we would not have been able to do except for having the mountaineering skill. And slowly we just need to walk around and see what each square brings us. There are some encounters to be found, but this is outside of the first town, so these encounters are all fairly easy to manage. They get more difficult in different areas of the map. And it's a nice change of pace from the somewhat difficult level of the cavern beneath Tundara, where we had to be mostly on alert at all times. This should be, if not a walk in the park, at least not a massive hike up Everest. It seems that we are in orc territory right now. There are quite a few of them here. They don't seem to be happy to see us. We were in a battle earlier that featured the mutant swines, and it's very likely that that was the lair of the orcs, and this is just the path leading to it. Let's see, we already explored this little square. Okay. I want to complete all the squares down here and all the way to the town. And then I'm going to quickly run through them from the other direction, because sometimes in this game things aren't triggered if you aren't facing a certain way. So if you run through them facing the other way, nothing happens. We've now done this square facing, and this is an example of that. We've been in this square before, but now we're facing west. And now there's a sign that says a moss-covered fountain stands before you. Drink from it. No, we won't drink from it right now. But we'll mark the spot X2Y1 facing north. Oh, we weren't facing north, we were facing... So, in this particular case, this spawns if you're facing west or south, but not if you're facing north or east, if it's in the same location. Fountain. So what we're going to do, we're not going to drink from it right now. We're going to continue with our path down here and then go down and do an easterly walk through all of these squares. And then go up to a westerly walk through these. Go up here, go to the east through these blocks. And then back in the other direction. So they're basically visiting every square from east and west. And then we will go south through them as well. But we shouldn't really need to do that. Here is at X4Y4 a monster pit. Jump in, which we didn't see before when we went through exactly this square, so it isn't obvious if you're facing north or east, but it is if you're facing south or west. We won't visit it right now, as our aim here is to map this little part of the area and then then we'll go back to Middlegate and save our progress. And return and try both the fountain and the monster pit. Okay. We definitely don't need to worry about the road. Don't need to scale that very much. Accidentally left the area. So now we've done the first 7 blocks in each direction, so we're about halfway done in mapping. Or I should have said quarter done mapping C2. So we'll start by the blacksmith. We'll sell the items that we gained here, and we actually gained a hero medal, which is actually a useful item. It increases the personality of a character, which gives you additional spell points. So we see this in action right now. So Roland, which is a paladin, has 8 spell points, and what we will do now is we will equip him with the hero medal, and that will raise his personality to 18, and we will rest, and all of a sudden we have 12 spell points. So that's a hike of 50% just from equipping this item. The cleric already has a hero medal. I think it's actually it's a +3 or 4, +2. So that gives him an even bigger boost to his personality. And we've now saved the mapping, so we can go back outside. It's very tempting to jump into the monster pit. Here's another battle. This is a weird mix of monsters here. Assume this is a random monster mash of certain levels. So if we had this battle at a lower level, it wouldn't be this difficult. One of the things about the game is that many of these random encounters, they change with the level you are at each point in time. So even if you hit some of these stages at a later stage in the game, these battles are still somewhat difficult. Okay. Now the druid, which was one of the monsters here, is making things quite difficult for us here, because what he does is that he casts the silence spell, which makes the spell casters unable to cast their spells. They are not capacitated in any other way, but not being able to cast spells reduces their usefulness to the party quite a bit. So even if the druid is a fairly easy monster to kill, you can still do a lot of damage. And we were lucky there weren't more of these crazed dwarves here, or we would not have survived this battle. But we got through this alive. And didn't really gain a lot from doing so. We found a great bow +1, which is not a great weapon at this stage of the game, at least. And a little bit of gold and gems. What I'm more curious now about is the fountain. Which was here somewhere. To go through these orc battles again here, since we ended up in the square. Fountain was here somewhere. I forgot to write down where it was. Doesn't matter, we can easily take care of these orcs here. And we were attacked while we were asleep. Ended up in a far more difficult battle where we've been stripped of our ability to cast spells for the most part, and been cursed to hell and back. So I should probably use some first aid from the paladin. Try to restore some health to the characters. It is the paladin, which is a very weak magical casters until the late points in the game, is still useful. Having a secondary spellcaster can be enormously helpful, but the Cursed Slayer has leveled us down enough that we can't cast any spells anymore. So now we have one member left. We're not gonna make it through this battle. But no great loss. The monster pit didn't really offer us anything of any value. Here's the fountain. I thought we had been here before. This is pretty much the location I thought it was in. I'll write down the coordinates now. Now, before we drink from this fountain, we have no idea what does. I will take a screenshot of this character's current status, and we can then compare that with the results after drinking from the fountain, so we know what the fountain does. Accidentally moved, yeah. Now we want to drink from it. It at least did not alter our hit points in any way, and it did not change our spell points. It did nothing with our armor class, our food, or our class. It's still the same day and the same year, so we haven't moved in time. And now let's see what has happened to this character, what this fountain actually does. Okay, so what has happened here is that instead of being at level 8, he's now at level 9. So what this fountain does is that it adds an additional level to the characters at seemingly no other expense. They didn't age, and nothing seems to have been removed. So question is now, if we drink from it again, yeah, it will increase our level again, and we're able to do this again and again, leveling up as we want. So now, okay, up to a certain point, then you go back down. Yeah, until you probably eventually just, okay. It might also just be random. 10, 8, 13, 4, yeah, it is random. So it will either level you up or level you down, depending entirely on your luck. So we're level 13 now. That means that we are able to do all sorts of damage, but it doesn't seem to affect our magical level. The spell level does not change, it's just the character level that changes. But that also means that we are a very formidable enemy right now. So this might come in handy at some point. We can, it's good to know that it's there. I assume as soon as we rest, we will lose this ability. There are many things in the game which are level independent, and one of them is obviously the ability to inflict damage on the enemy. And the higher the level, the more chances at hitting the monsters you get. So now at this fairly high level, we are able to attack the monster at least 3 times every turn, and that also means that the damage that the weapon inflicts on the enemy is tripled. So that makes battling things out much easier. Obviously we have not gained any of the secondary benefits to leveling up, such as increased magical level and increased hit points, but we do significantly more damage per turn than we would. So we've been able to fight quite a few fights here without even resting. We aren't really using it to our to our benefit at any real level here. I was just testing it out. And we found a decent amount of gold after this brawl. So now we know what it does. And I assume that we've now just returned to normal. Nothing else has changed. There's no lasting damage to any of the characters from trying out this fountain. This is a good thing to have. Might come in handy at some point. So what we'll do now is we'll go back to Middlegate, sell this stuff, and save our progress, including the experience we earned and the gold we earned. And then we'll go back upside and map a little bit more. I don't think we have walk on water yet. No, we don't. That spell can't be learned until you find it in the game. In the previous game in the series, you found it in one of the water levels. It was just lying there, waiting to be found. But at the moment we can't swim, so we have no way of exploring the water. We can just explore the area around it. This gives us a way to cross over, however, at X10Y4 there's a boat. I'll jot that down. So we can at least make it to the other side without being able to walk on the water itself. And we've completed this now. The parts that we can map on this side at least. And now I'll walk 1, 2, 3, 1. And then having now walked these squares in both directions, nothing more to be found. Okay. And closed off by water here. This is the road. There's water on this side, so we can't get any further here. We'll walk east through this area here. What do we have here? We have 6 of these crazed dwarfs, some of these snapping spores. Okay, this is difficult. What we need to do, we need to get rid of these, at least some of these crazed dwarfs, before they start attacking us, because they will do a significant amount of damage to us. Yeah. As well as the snapping spores, which are also similar monsters. They actually are able to attack every member of the party in a single swing. We're somewhat lucky that we didn't end up with more dead cast members. Now, depending on what we find here, we might just try our luck continuing. And if we find a decent amount of treasure, we will go back and restore our condition. We did not, so this is a pretty big net minus. Well, it's basically 700 since we don't have to heal the hireling. We can go back. Things are now more difficult for us because it so happens that the hireling knight was one of the characters that had the Pathfinder skill, and now that we don't have him anymore, it means that we are incapable of getting out of the forested areas as well, which is why I tend to place these skills on the characters that have a significant number of hit points, so it's likely that they stay with us after battle. We got some 512 gold for the bow, so pretty much a wash here. Cost us 800 to repair or restore our condition. In every of these outside maps, there are always these spawn points, just as there are in the dungeons, where every time you enter into the square, you go into an encounter. This one, however, being much more easy than the one we had previously. One disease to cure, and just a matter of resting. Let's see, 1, 2. Another encounter square. 6 of these killer cadavers here. Some of these conjurers. This is fairly difficult. We were able to run away. I'm not really looking for a battle here. I'm mostly looking to explore the map. Four jugglers, some man-at-arms, a kobold captain, and some rats. This is doable. Or even we need to do is we need to take care of these jugglers before they get another chance to take us out. So we will try to focus on them as much as we can. Problem being that when there are so many of the party in front, it's difficult to do the ranged attacks. And the jugglers are at the back, causing endless damage because we can't kill them. And this has been fairly difficult so far, and they're moving up now, so they're able to inflict some damage. I'll cast the power cure on the sorcerer, which the juggler has now moved in front, and I'll exchange places. I use her turn to exchange places with the barbarian and move her back to her position. So we live to fight the day. Found something called a holy charm, which I'm going to check out what is. That's the turn on that spell. We don't really need that, so it's very likely that we will simply sell that item. Now to travel west through the same area and then go down and travel east through the blocks below. And then to go in the other direction, so we go through each square facing both directions. And those 2 squares are done. West first, and then east on the square above. And on the road again. We just can't wait to get on the road again. My fine life is making music with my friends. I can't wait to get on the road again. Name the song. Okay, 2, 3 squares here. There's another ferry crossing here to the other side in 10, 12. Jotted that down. Science says Volcania, which is one of the towns. I believe it's the last town in the game. There's an encounter here, not a particularly difficult one. So we will start by taking care of this cursed slayer here, which will reduce our ability and curse the characters, and then we will take care of these weird bats here, which might be, which are not undead. I keep forgetting they're not undead, they're just bats. And we will simply bash our way through. All they really do is make the characters deceased, which isn't really much of a problem. We can easily just cure that. What is the likelihood that the characters that are already unconscious are also deceased? There's a decent chance, so I'll just cure them anyway. And then rest. Okay. Actually found a plate armor +3, which is good armor. We already have plate armor +3 on both the knight and the paladin, but the hireling knight doesn't have this good of an armor, although he has an armor that has added protection from electricity. This, however, is a far more useful thing in more circumstances. So what I will do is I won't sell the S-Plate Mail +2, I'll keep it, but I'll equip him with this, which will increase his armor class to 19, which is quite a bit of a hike for him, and actually gives him the highest armor class in the party. because in addition to this he has a great shield +2, which I gave to him because he had the lowest armor class. So I should neither of the other two can actually wear a shield either because they're using two-handed weapons, so there's no use in trading shields. Here's another of these battles. This is also a decently easy one. Just a few more of these cursed slayers here. We will end up cursed, but that's not the end of the world. We can easily have that repaired at the next temple. We found more gold than it costs us to heal these characters, so that's fine. Now we will go back the other way, in the other direction, see if there's anything that we missed. And there isn't, so no, we've done all of the mapping of this side of this river here, or lake. So we'll go back to town and sell some of our items. And then we'll go and save our progress here. And we probably should have uncursed ourselves first. Uncursed, save again. And then we'll go outside and map the other side of this little lake or river here. Use the ferry boat to get across. Go down to the bottom block here and go all the way to the corner here, and we'll walk west till we hit the water, and then walk back east until we hit the last square, and we'll repeat this. Here is an interesting thing. A curious looking fellow walks easily over the turbulent river, yet no bridge is visible. I'll teach you my secret ways for 50 gold. I assume this is the walk on water spell. And we're going to learn now. Yes, it is. It cost us 50 gold and we've learned to walk on water. I'd happily pay that. Seems like a pretty neat party trick. So what we'll do now is I accidentally went into the next area, which wasn't what I was going to do. I was going to go this way back. There are some road signs here for some of the castles and a palace. There are many areas left that we haven't explored here. So this is just the start. This is just one square out of 20. I'm just gonna finish mapping the non-water squares. So we're done with that before continuing with the water. and finish mapping this C2 map here before finishing up and ending the stream. Let's see. We are in X14Y8. And the sign said, ruins of a mighty castle are strewn across the area. That knowing that this game features time travel tells us that in another time there is a castle in this location, although it's not in the game at the current point in time. Here's another one of these fountains at X14Y10. The sign said a mist rises from a 3-tiered fountain. Drink from it? Not just yet. I want to finish this mapping before we do that. And this is another encounter point. Some jugglers, witches, cats, some gargoyles. Like the jugglers are so far down the line that we can't even attack them yet. This is a very difficult combination of monsters. The gargoyle will paralyze the party members, making them unable to fight the monsters, while the juggler slowly takes us down, which I must say is less than great. Hoping we can power cure the sorcerer now, and we were able to do that, so no one is actually unconscious. I'm hoping we can do some damage with the lightning bolt. And we were able to do that, which leaves us in a situation where we actually survived this battle. It didn't look good there for a while, but we found a decent amount of gold, and we lived to fight another day. Another of these ferry crossings. We don't really need to cross again at this point. We're just traveling through the squares now from west and east. Okay, now we're done with the entire map except for the water bits. I don't mind paying the ferry crossing. It isn't a particularly expensive option. It's 5 gold. I'm gonna sell these items here save our progress as we've done many times before, and then we're gonna go outside and then finish mapping the water. And once we're done with that, we'll wrap up the stream. No, we don't want to buy any tickets. We have this amazing spell that enables us to walk on water, and we see that it's active here in the status area. And instead of going east-west now, I'm gonna go north-south. That's pretty much the same effect. But for this area, I'm gonna do east and west again. There's something fun happening here in the middle. I think that's obvious. We'll map the rest and return to that point again. It's at least about a 50% chance that we have an encounter there, which isn't necessarily what we want right now. We just want to map all of these squares, see what we find. Using a combination of east-west and north-south, I found earlier that it always spawns on at least two directions. So if you do at least both north and south, or both east and west, that's enough to make sure that you don't miss anything that is on the square. Now we did everything except that one rocky area there in the middle, so we'll save the process and visit that little square again. Sign above this cave reads chosen ones only enter. Wow, no, not at this particular moment in the game, and we are at 10-7. Tomorrow we will probably try entering that cavern, see if we're anywhere close to being high enough of a level to complete it. Perhaps we're not, in which case we will simply give up and move elsewhere. We could, for example, try our hand with some of the other outside areas and potentially C1 or C3 and continue mapping them. We need to eventually complete all of these, so we can move through them one by one, but I don't think we're at a level high enough to move to the 4th town quite yet. But if things go well tomorrow, we level up to level 9, I might visit the 4th town as well, see how it goes. But for now, I'm gonna sign into the inn and quit the game. And as I've done on all occasions now, I'm going to make a backup of the current roster, which is the save file of the game, and store it in a folder here. Roster backup Middlegate level 8. And this is to prevent us from blocking ourselves. You can make mistakes that aren't fixable in the game, and I like to, after every stream, I like to make a backup of the roster file, so I can at least return to that point in the game, so I don't lose many days of progress. Simple oversight, like for example the characters accidentally aging a number of years and so on, can mean that it's almost impossible to continue. So it's good to both thread carefully and still have a backup. it's a case of having both suspenders and a belt. It still reduces the chance of your pants falling down. But for now, thanks for joining me, and thanks for watching. Good night.